Hey guys, welcome back. And I went ahead and decided I'm going to go ahead and make this a new series. I know I labeled the other video, my most recent video I uploaded, part 1, but technically this is going to be part 1, so I'm going to change the name to that video because that one's just a general overview. So this is going to be part 1, going over my experience in my guild and my appreciation for my guild and all of its members, whether that be, past members, present members, and even future members. For anybody that is watching that was a part of the guild, Aogiritreee with 3 E's, thank you so much for being a part of my life and my great journey into this game. So, in the previous video, I was going to mention something, but I forgot, and it's actually a pretty big part. And so I'm going to go ahead and mention that now. And that is my reasoning for becoming a YouTuber and streamer of Grand Cross. And the reason was because I just generally wanted to help people make guides and videos and interact with the community. I want to do everything I can to help people and get this community to grow and prosper and spread love into the community. Now, as far as the series goes, this series ended up being a lot harder to process for me than I originally thought it was going to be. This is my second time recording this one because my first recording, I'm gonna be honest, was terrible. It was horrible. There was no structure to it, and it did not fall in line the way I wanted it to. So this is second try. Hopefully this will be the one that airs, and if so, then good. That means I learned something, and maybe this will be a project that'll help me better make videos in the future. And of course, this series was created from the idea of the drama that had happened. I'm not going to get into it, but I made a promise that I was going to make a video every single day for my buddy Spirit until he came back to the community. So Spirit, if you are watching this, your family is waiting for you. Please come back. Of course, I'm not going to make you, but we miss you, man, and you mean a lot to us. So let's go ahead and get into story time with Vader, my journey into Grand Cross. So we are going to start with my first interactions with my guild. Now, when I first joined this guild, and I did mention in the previous video how I ended up joining. So my first interactions, when I first started, I didn't really talk to people. The extent to my interactions with people was I would hop on chat every now and then to ask, for advice in the game. Because when I first started playing the game, it was very, very casual. I did not heavy grind or anything like that. I didn't even kind of understand the process of grinding and all that. And to be honest, I rarely looked up guides on YouTube. The first time I really found guides on YouTube was because I noticed that Escanor, who was one of my absolute favorite anime characters, was not in the game at the moment. And I didn't know why. I was like, this is a 7 Deadly Sins game. You don't have one of the 7 Deadly Sins. What's going on? And I didn't even know that there was a Japanese version that was separate from the global version at the time. And so I tried doing a little bit of research. I looked it up and found out that the way gacha games work, and because Escanor is super hype and everything, global just hadn't released Green Escanor yet. And nobody knew when he was coming. So that's kind of the first time I realized, hey, there's a big community out here with, people making YouTube videos and everything. So that's kind of where I started off with that. But I would, every now and then, hop into the Discord server for my guild and ask for advice, stuff like that, and people would help me out. People were very friendly. But I just didn't talk very much because I didn't understand the process. I didn't understand how the guild, worked and everything. But I did notice that they talked a lot in the Discord chat. They interacted with each other and they had a good time. And so one day I just decided, hey, why don't I try talking to these people? I'm in the guild with them. Why not? So I did. I would message I would kind of hop in on a conversation here and there, try to get to know people and all that. And it was great. The guild captain, Vizlin, we all call her Viz, she was a huge influence on my path in this game. And there was another guy who very specifically memorable because he really helped me out a lot. He was the first person in the guild that was like a real what's the word I'm looking for? Like a good companion in the guild, like someone that I could interact with on a day-to-day basis. We ran demons all the time, and this was DK. He went by DK in the guild, and he was pretty good at the game at this point, whereas I was not. So he ended up helping me a lot. But eventually I started to become good at the game, right? And another really big key influence, another big player in this guild in the very, very start, in the early days, was a guy who went by Animus. He had left another guild to join our guild. And Animus was like one of the top, I don't know if he was like top in the game, but he was up there in terms of our guild. He was a very well-rounded, experienced player. He knew what he was doing, and he joined and was helping us get better. And I ran demons with him a lot. We had a lot of good times. It was great. Around this time, this is when I would consider would be the golden age for the guild. This is where like a lot of the original members would look back and say, this was a beautiful time. And this was before, the fall. And around this time is when another really big key player joined. And this individual went by Kazgasm. We all called him Kaz. Really good guy. Not to be confused with another really huge player, Kaze. Their names sound, similar when I talk about Kaz. Sometimes people think I'm talking about Kaze. Kaz left the game at some point, but when he first joined, I kind of took him under my wing, and I was helping him, teaching him about the game and everything. This is when I really started to feel like I knew what I was doing, because I had the knowledge and understanding enough to pass along to another member, someone who is newer to the game. And that really did make me feel really good about the game. And this is around the time I was, really starting to get big into the game, looking up guides all the time, heavy grinding, all that good stuff. And Kaze would join around this time as well. But around this time is also kind of when things started to fall a little bit. We had some people starting to quit. But something that's really big, memorable in the history of this guild was the Great CC Wars. And this is when a group of the members, the stronger members, were competing, like heavy competition for who would be at the top in terms of box CC, like account combat class. Because we had someone that was number 1 for the longest time, right? And the CC Wars all started because somebody else passed him. And I was getting close. I was getting up there. Because I feel like I was getting really good at the game at this point. And the person who became number 1 ended up being my first actual rival in the game. Now, this individual was already kind of thinking about leaving the game. But because I started to compete with him for the top, and this went on for a while. But because of this, he decided he was going to stay in the game and compete with me until I passed him and got to the point where he could not keep up with me. Now, this was really tough because I had grown bonds with these people, and I didn't want any of them to leave. And he had already made up his mind. And so it wouldn't be fair to him if I stopped pushing. But, I mean, to be fair, he would have left anyways. This way, he would have stayed until the CC Wars were over. and which he did. I eventually won the CC Wars. I ended up being at the top, and he left the game. It was very sad, but it happened. After this, I actually stayed number 1 in terms of box CC for a very, very long time. And this is also around the time when Lost Vein dropped. And Lost Vein, as you probably know, is when a lot of players left the game. This is when the guild kind of died. A lot of the members left the guild, and even the captain herself left, which was very sad. Everybody was sad. It was not a good time. Nobody was talking. The guild chat was dead. And the person who took over after her, as I mentioned in the previous video, also had a lot on his plate. A lot of things going on where he didn't have the time to put into the guild. So he also eventually ended up leaving. And that's when he handed the title of captain over to me. And me and my 2 guild captains, we worked really, really hard. And we pushed for months. We grinded, recruiting new members. We ended up getting the guild back to, I mean, you could say it's former glory. I can't really tell you like how comparable. It just doesn't compare, because the way things were beforehand and the way things are now is just 2 completely different things. Beforehand, it was a bunch of people growing and learning together, whereas now we have a few people who are veterans at the game who know what we're doing, helping out a bunch of people that are not as experienced. But either way, I would not take the old days over the new days, just because I've grown such a huge bond with the people in my guild today. And honestly, I wouldn't give this up for anything. But anyways, we got a lot of new members that really made this place feel like a family again. And this includes people like my buddy Blacksword, who has become one of my best friends in the game and is now one of my captains. We have other new members like Tegan and Rimuru and Bearded Saiyan and Krez and Sai and Fluffy, and there's just so many new people, new friends, new family members that we've made along the way. There's just too many to count. But around this time, when we finally got back to being like a proper guild, there's a lot of really cool things that happened. I made a Hall of Fame for the guild. I started restructuring everything. I gave people titles based on their experience. And we also ended up having Guild Wars for the first time ever. We won our first 2 Guild Wars. There's the only 2 that we ever did, but we won both of them. They weren't like high tier Guild Wars or anything, but it was still amazing for the guild as a whole. We ended up getting another really good member of the family, Anno, who we kind of tricked into playing the game, but he's still an amazing part of the family, and I appreciate him being here. The Bearded Saiyan, who was a part of so real quick, one thing about this guild is it's in a server with other games and everything that people play. But there was other guilds in this server besides our guild for 7 Deadly Sins. Around Lost Vein, when our guild kind of started to die, the other 2 guilds also were dying. But the other 2 guilds didn't rebuild like we did. We rebuilt to, full strength, whereas they did not. So some of the members that were still playing the game from the other guilds needed somewhere to go, and so we took them in. And one of those was Bearded Saiyan. Now, this guy was pretty strong. He was pretty experienced. He'd been playing the game for a while. And eventually, I ended up making him a guild captain. And because of his strength, in terms of like combat class and knowledge of the game and everything, he was at my level. So we ended up becoming rivals. So this is my current rival in the game. And we poke fun at each other a lot just because of that, but he's a really good friend of mine, and he is family, and I appreciate him so much for being a part of this family. But not too long after this, we did have a few hardships. Kay's, as I'm not going to go into detail, but he has a lot of rough things going on for him at the moment. So he's still there. He still checks in. He just hasn't been interacting with people or playing the game nearly as much, along with another member. And it is really sad to see someone you consider family go through something like this. So Kaze, if you're watching this, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you, and you've been with us for so long. You were such a big influence in my life, and I hope things get better for you, man. But because Kaze is one of my guild captains and he's not able to be around all the time, I decided the Black Sword, my buddy, needed to become a guild captain. So I promoted Black Sword. He has been doing an amazing job. He's gotten so much stronger than when he first started. And then the bird came out, and everybody hates the bird. But one of our members, Sai, who had been climbing through the ranks in terms of strength, ended up getting really good at the bird. And so he started helping everybody out, and he made a guide and everything. And so now he has been promoted. Sai, if you're watching this, I want to let you know how much I appreciate you being with us. Thank you so much. You're amazing. And yeah, that's pretty much the general overview. That's up until now. That's the recent times. This guild has been through a lot, and everybody in this guild means so much to me. And I just want to let you guys know I appreciate everything. And I hope this guild continues to grow strong, and I hope everyone prospers and you know, pulls the units they want and everything. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully, part 2 and part 3 and everything so on turns out better. But yeah, Spirit, if you're watching this, we miss you, buddy. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.